Mr. President, I come to the floor to strongly support the legislation before the Senate on behalf of small businesses in this country. They are the greatest generators of jobs in the country. We hear it so often from our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. This is something we agree on. They are the greatest generators of jobs in the country. So when we're trying to get people back to work, let's help them, help us collectively in putting more Americans back to work. And that's what this legislation is all about. We've talked a lot about protecting Main Street, and now this bill gives us the opportunity to do exactly that. It gives communities the guarantees they need to get lending started again, to put money into our engines of job growth, and all without any pay-go implications. That's a good bill. So I want to thank our distinguished colleague from Louisiana, Senator Landrieu, the chair of the Small Business Committee, for her hard work in putting this important legislation together, and the ranking member of the committee, Senator Snowe, as well, for her work on the bill, and particularly her past work with me on community development financial institutions, or what we call commonly as CDFIs. And I'm very grateful to Senator Landrieu, the chair, for including an important CDFI component in the bill before us. Let me just take a moment to talk about how this is an opportunity to have direct and immediate opportunities to help jumpstart job growth. It invests directly in small businesses and local communities by supporting community development financial institutions, or CDFIs. And based on what we know from historic performance, not because we're guessing, but from historic performance, the provision that I authored will create approximately 40,000 new jobs by authorizing the government to guarantee bonds issued by qualified CDFIs for community and economic development loans. And best of all, again, there are no pay-go implications. As their names implies, the primary mission of community development financial institutions is to foster economic and community development in underserved areas. They have a proven track record of job creation and are arguably the most effective way to infuse capital in underserved areas for community and economic development. CDFIs leverage public and private dollars to support economic development projects such as job training clinics, startup loans for small businesses in areas full of potential but desperate for development. CDFIs have been hit hard by the recession because they have had to rely on big banks for capital. And we know and have seen that capital is neither affordable nor accessible, and to be very honest with you, not forthcoming. So I'm proud to have had bipartisan support on this provision that is included in the bill. Again, I want to thank my colleague from Louisiana for including it. I want to thank Senator Snowe for co-sponsoring it, along with Senators Johnson, Leahy, and Schumer. The idea is simple. If big banks don't care about lending to small businesses and communities in need of capital, then we should empower the very organizations who do care, who make it their mission every day to rebuild Main Street across this country, who have a proven record of achievement. And as I said earlier, all the calculations are based upon their historic performance, that this provision alone within this bill could create 40,000 new jobs. Now, I don't understand how our colleagues on the other side of the aisle can go back home to their states looking at high unemployment, rail about the realities that unemployment continues to be high, and then be here in Washington stopping the very essence of what could create the jobs to reduce those unemployment levels and put people back to work and give them the dignity of having a job that can help sustain their families and realize their hopes and dreams and aspirations. I don't get it. I don't get it. But that's where we seem to be. We seem to be that everything has a political equation, which is to ultimately have this president and this Congress fail, as somehow that's the road to electoral victory. And you know, if you were just a political tactician, maybe you might think that makes sense. The problem is it's not about this president or this Congress failing. It's about failing the country at one of its most critical junctures in history. And so I really hope that we can see some support for this legislation. And finally, I also hope, I often have heard my colleagues talk about the home building industry. Well, I have an amendment that is out there that I believe that we should be supporting small businesses regardless of what industry they are in. The home building industry has been especially hit hard by this recession, resulting in the loss of hundreds of thousands of middle-class, blue-collar jobs this country was built on and that communities were built on. Encouraging community banks to fund the construction of housing will not only put many of our unemployed construction workers back on the payroll, it will help revitalize the housing market, which is one of the root causes of this recession in the first place. But it would be nice to have some Republican support to have that provision included and to ultimately help us pass the bill so that we can get people back to work. So I hope that Republicans will join in this effort to ensure that all small businesses share in the benefits of this valuable program and in this legislation. And if we do that, this will be a good down payment on getting more people back to work. I don't know, again, how our colleagues seem to be able to go back home, rail about where are the jobs, and then be here as the job killers. That's what they seem to be doing all the time, voting no, opposing process so that the creation of jobs are not achieved, so that, in fact, we can find ourselves in a situation in which the American people who are looking to this Senate to help them create the circumstances in this country, the economic underpinnings to drive the private sector, to create the jobs that they can work in, that will give them gainful employment, help them realize their hopes and dreams, aspirations, and therefore have money in the economy to spend for the challenges that they have, and then further enhance the ripple effect of that will create more jobs. That's what this is all about. It's all about the private sector having the opportunities, but the private sector that creates the greatest rates of growth for job opportunities, small business. I hope our colleagues on the other side of the aisle can find their way to finally come together with us on this specific piece of legislation to create the jobs for our families to put America back to work. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.